Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, the podcast aimed to inspire you to find your voice and become the best, truest, and most authentic version of yourself. Spiritually intimate, soul-to-soul conversations, life-changing insights, and spiritual teaching and healing. Real, raw, unfiltered. Join your host, Tisha Michelle.
Welcome and welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul with me, Tisha Michelle, your host. Hi everyone, what's up? How you doing? How you feeling? What's going on in your world? I hope you guys are checking in with yourself, just as much as you may check in on other people. Always super important to bring it back in to check in with yourself and just take that time out and just say, how are you feeling today? What's going on with you? Right? Really have that conversation with you. Lean into yourself. All right. So in this present moment, what am I grateful for? Definitely going to say in this present moment, I am grateful for this podcast episode. And the reason being is because it's a conversation with my son. I get to have a conversation with my son and share some of his experiences and his thoughts with you guys. So I'm super grateful for that. Now your turn. What are you grateful for in this present moment? But let's go ahead and get a little grounded and let's take a couple of deep breaths, right? So unless you're driving, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. I want you to take a nice deep breath and just slowly breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let's take another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and just let it out through your mouth. All right, one more. Another nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose. And yes, let it out through your mouth. Don't you just feel good? Don't you just feel relaxed? Reset yourself, right? Do this a couple of times throughout the day. Calm that nervous system down. Because I know your nervous system be overstimulated. I'm only saying that because mine be. All right, so what are you guys grateful for? You can put me on pause and go and journal it. Say it out loud. Say it in your head. Doesn't even matter. Whatever way you choose to do it is perfect for you. Just express that gratitude, right? We're going to put that out there and we're going to get it right back, right? You're grateful because you just had an amazing day or amazing, sleep or whatever. Just put that energy out and let's get it right back. All right. So today's episode, like I said, I got to sit down and have a conversation with my son who goes by Humble Mike. And we talked about believing in yourself and we talked about stepping out on faith. And, he shared his story, when he was looking to get into college, even though I had to jump in because he was leaving out some parts. And there's even a part in there where he said, he was like, dang, you got a really good memory. And I do. And especially when so many things are significant. And when it's these different times that, I've stepped out on faith or he stepped out on faith, or I've just been a part of someone who just stepped out on faith. It is ingrained in me, right? It is just there because it's so powerful. And I also find myself reflecting back to a lot of different things and reminding myself of the power that we have within us and the power that stands behind believing in yourself, the power that stands behind stepping out on faith, right? So those times where I'm down and I'm out or I'm feeling like, everything is just against me or, things are just not working out. I'm not understanding that. I always will say to Spirit, I'll be like, remind me. That's all I say is remind me. And certain things that's happened in my life, or maybe in someone that I'm close to life, it reminds me of those times of stepping out in faith. So you're damn right. I remember those stories. I remember how it happened. I was definitely jumping in and saying, wait a minute. No, you forgot this part. This is important. We gotta detail every aspect of it to show that there's no luck. There's no coincidence. It's divine. It's divine. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy the conversation that I had with my son, Humble Mike. All right. Well, welcome to Seeing with Your Soul podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Excited to, connect.
Well, the only one question that I ask all guests, that's the same. Everything else just flows. So I'm going to ask you that question. And that question is, in this present moment, what are you grateful for?
Oh, I'm just grateful for another day, being blessed to wake up, and be here and have another opportunity to really just go out there and make this year my year.
Yeah. So. I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of people really don't even realize how blessed we really are just to wake up. And for me personally, I don't think that never really, I would hear like the older people say that, like, oh, I made it another day. And I'm like, why wouldn't you have? Never said that to people. But in my mind, I'm like, why wouldn't you have? But it didn't really sink in until TT passed away. And for those listening, TT is Gloria. You've heard me many times talk about my best friend, which is also, Humble Mike's, aunt. So when she went to sleep and at the age of 39 and didn't wake up, I'm like, wow, now I see why it's so important, that we acknowledge that, we woke up, right? It's another day to get things right. And when I say get things right, that means like whatever right is for like ourselves, another day to walk in your purpose, another day to discover more about yourself, another day to take action, another day just to do whatever the hell you want to do. All right. So we're going to dive in a little bit. I remember telling people, talking to them and telling them like, oh my gosh, like this happened when my son was, we're trying to figure out what school he was going to go to and all these different things. And I would share the story, but I never would share the whole story because I would say, this is his story to tell. Right. And I'm like, it's his story. So I'm like, just wait. One day he's going to tell it. Like one day he's going to tell, the story. Because I'm always like interested and curious to see like another person's like perspective. Right. How did you see that? How did that feel? So I guess I would definitely want to start with asking you, when did you first start believing in something outside of yourself, where it wasn't anything tangible or anything that nothing that you could see, nothing that you could hear, nothing that didn't make logical sense. Like if you can think back, when would you say that began?
So that's a good question. So when it first began, I would say it was the summer of 2016 when I lost my best friend, Frank, and just the way that everything happened and how I was literally supposed to be in that car and like I almost lost my life. It was a real wake up call and just realizing that, while that was a tragic time, I was fortunate enough to still be here to this day. And I know that was from, not from me, it was from something higher than myself. So at that moment, it kind of just woke me up at 16 years old to kind of really just figure out more about life, figure out more and grow my relationship more with God and spiritually. So that was when I first started to believe into like faith and everything, but that wasn't the strongest. It wasn't until Auntie passed away, which was about 2017, where that was when I knew, like, because there was a series of events before that was kind of leading up to it. But at that moment, I knew that, there is a higher source out here and a lot of things are happening for a certain reason, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't figure it out. So that was when I would say that I really, truly believed into faith, into just something that was higher than myself. And from there, I've always just been interested in learning more about spirituality and just growing a deeper relationship within myself as well.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I guess like even going back to 2016, when you're saying like, man, I should have been there. And for those of you that are listening, I'll make sure that I'll put it in the show notes because with his best friend, Frank, that he's talking about, I actually had his dad on an earlier podcast. So for those of you who are new to Seeing with Your Soul, I will make sure that I will put what podcast number that is so you can actually go back and, listen to that powerful story there as well. So do you feel like when you were like, okay, there has to be something, all these different things is happening and all, did you ever feel like, man, I just got lucky, or, well, what is going on? Like, this is weird or this is spooky. That's one of your, your words. When you were really seeing these different things that were happening, like, did you have anything to put to it, like a word, or was it this God that people talks about, or tell me a little bit more about that.
So what I got from it was everything and everyone has a purpose in life. And before that, I kind of had an idea, but I never really thought too deep about what my purpose was. Was I just another number, or was I put on here to actually like do something big and impact lives in many different ways? So that was like the biggest thing that I learned from it was purpose, and even just the purpose behind, me losing Frank, me losing Auntie, me losing all these people. Like there was a reasoning behind it. I know that I don't know completely yet, but it'll all make sense in the end. So I learned two things is just purpose and just trusting God, trusting what's happening because everything's happening for a reason.
Yeah, I think that's really hard, for a lot of people. Just even with me working with people individually where they're like, I just don't understand it. It just doesn't make any sense. And even for me, with certain things, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, but when you start really, tapping into your spirituality and you start, digging deeper or building a deeper, relationship, whether it's with the universe or a relationship with spirit, God, or just a deeper relationship with yourself, you do start to feel a little bit better when you can say, there's a purpose to this. And I might not know what it is, but there is one. And I know for me, and you can, based off of what you're saying, is just knowing that there is something else, there is something bigger, even if you don't consciously know it right now, it just seems to make you feel better. And it makes me so you don't feel like this is just a waste. Like, this is stupid. This is crazy, that there's just something, and that's what it sounds like, to me, is that, you holding on to purpose, even not understanding what the purpose was, or maybe even knowing the full picture of what your purpose is in this world, but just knowing that there is purpose. It's like, whew, there's something. And I say this all the time with people, especially when it comes to like work or your job. And when I say work, the thing that we are doing, right, whatever that may be, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're 9 to 5, is that work thing it gives us purpose, which is why a lot of people, when they're out of work or, they got laid off or whatever, they become depressed because they feel like they don't have a purpose. Right. And I know that's really a big struggle with a lot of people because they feel like it's just a mundane and everything is just every day is the same and you're just doing the same thing over and there's just like no purpose to anything. Right. So I think that is great, especially with you being at a young age. Like, actually, like let listeners know, how old are you?
I just turned 22 years young a few days ago. So yeah, we're still young, still got a lot more to experience in life. I'm definitely blessed to have a mom like, I have, who's been able to cut the learning curve for me and just really set the example. That's the biggest thing. Like, the only reason why that I am the way that I am is without a doubt because of you, because of my mom. For the listeners, she's definitely been that example who really just showed me what I've learned the most is just like, you got to just go out and make it happen. Like just make it happen. The only excuse is yourself. So, just having that example as a mother alone definitely helped a lot.
Aw, didn't think it was about to go there, but I appreciate that. I receive it. Yeah, I mean, it is. And so when I was saying, going back to like your age, it's, being young, I think it's just dope to just even be like, yeah, I have a purpose. Like, and I understand that there's something more. And I'm like, yes, because, with my age right now, I'm 41. So I think it took me until like 37, 38 to really actually understand that there was more to life than just existing. Right. So I love the fact that I can teach you guys what I've learned, but not only that I can teach you guys, like you're open to receiving it. You're open to receiving it. So I would be loving, like, I would be saying something to you, and then later on, I'll hear you like talking about it, or you're saying, I'll be like, oh, shit, he was listening, and to me, I think that's super, super cool because of course we all have free will and you can do whatever it is that you want to do. So to be able to take that and then be able to run with it, and not only run with it, be aware of it, to say, wait a minute, these different events, it's teaching me something. There's a little bit more on here. I want to go deeper and learn more about myself, learn more about my spirituality. Because a lot of times we're just on a detour and we have no freaking clue that we're on a detour.
Mm-hmm.
So just as much as you think like me, like I thank you for being open to even like receiving and applying it into your life, whatever way, works for you in whatever aspect of it, right? So I do want to dive into really just stepping out on faith, right? This is something that I know a lot of us, myself included, and even the listeners, we always hear people just have faith, just have faith. And it does frustrate a lot of people because they're like, okay, like faith is not helping me. Like I got to do something, which I absolutely believe that we do need to take the action. We take that inspired action, right? But stepping out on faith and believing in something that's you can't see, you can't touch. It doesn't make any logical sense at all, but you just knowing that everything is going to be okay and you're going to trust. So I personally know of a couple of instances, with you and stuff. Which incident would you say was probably the biggest or maybe the most impactful in your life where you stepped out on faith and that shit just worked out?
Wow. I just thought of like 12 different scenarios that just like that stood out to me when it comes to faith. That's just something that it wasn't until this first scenario that I'm going to explain. I think that was the biggest one to where I was able to be aware of everything else that happened after that. So I would say the first scenario of really just stepping out with faith and really just guided me into that direction to really just believe in. Like you said, faith is just seeing something without actually being able to see it. Was back when the whole college process, right, with Morgan State. Crazy story. I mean, like you already know, but for the listeners, like one thing I do want to say is when it comes to college sports and sports in general, it's a lot of politicking and it's a lot. It's a process. Let's just say that, long story short, it's a process. And one of my goals was to go to Division I college football. And, I'm not gonna say any names, but one of my coaches was making it like almost impossible for that to happen for me. He doubted me, told me this wasn't going to work, wasn't that, right? I had a few offers that I didn't even get to see until last minute, but something told me that there was something better for me out there. And I didn't give up. I waited to literally like the last day. I think it was past signing day to make a decision on what school I wanted to go to. And when it came down to it, I didn't really have any choices that I wanted. And then there was this one day, right? It was a completely normal day. And then out of nowhere, my mom comes up to me. She's like, you heard of a school called Morgan State? I'm like, nah, and I haven't. She's like, oh, they're a D1 school out in Baltimore. One of the coaches, he actually reached out to me. And I was like, for real? It's like, yeah, or rewind. You had got a call from, I think it was my.
I'll tell that part.
Yeah.
All right. So what happened was, so I remember I was in the outlets. We were in the Virginia. You know what? Before, listeners, bear with me. I want to go back to something. So something that you touched on, you said it was something that you wanted to do, which was you wanted to go to Division I. You wanted to go to a D1 school, and you had a coach who was making it almost impossible, right? So even certain things that he has said and certain things that he was doing and just the doubt that he had in you. And what was really important and what stands out is that you believed in yourself. And this is something that I'm talking to you guys, to, my listeners all the time. It doesn't matter what other people, think or feel or what their thoughts and stuff are. Your vision is your vision. And as long as you believe in yourself, you can literally make anything happen because we do have a lot of support. And that support goes beyond the physical sense. That support comes from our spirit guides, our angels, our ancestors, God, the universe, the whole squad, right? That support will come in a sense where something you can't see and you can't, and touch as long as you're believing in yourself. And that was something that you, like you said, you was like, man, there were these choices and these things I need to make, but I'm just like, I don't know. It's not what I want. And that's what it looks like and what it sounds like when you're believing in yourself, even though you aren't seeing it. And there may be a deadline and all that stuff, but that's the human sense, right? That's the human sense that puts deadlines and timings and all these different things and stuff, right? So definitely want to say, kudos to you for like believing in yourself and not allowing, even though it did make you mad, angry, upset and stuff, but you still didn't stray away from what you believed in. Right. Okay. So back to the story. I just wanted to make sure that I, highlight that, because if, you're listening right now and you have this thought and you have this vision and you can see it, but no one else, maybe you're sharing it with other people and they just don't see it. That's okay. Because that shit ain't for them to see. Mm-hmm. That vision is not for them to see. It's your vision. Everybody else has their own vision. And when people are doubting you, it's not even necessarily that they're really doubting you. They're just projecting about themselves, right? They're projecting about themselves. When we moved to Arizona, do you know how many people said to me when I told them the story, and they're like, "Oh my God, like that's so amazing. There's no way I could have done that. There's no way I could have done that." And that was the exact reason why I didn't tell people that we were moving and that we were stepping out on faith, because I knew people's own projections, they would take that and then project it onto us, right? So again, if you're listening and you got a vision and it's something that you want to do and you feel that shit, you'll rock out with it, trust it, keep standing up and keep believing like in yourself and then watch that unfold. So no, for real, this time back to the story, right? Yeah. So I was at the outlets. We went to the outlets and I got a phone call from my cousin. And I looked at the phone and I wasn't going to answer it. Nothing against him. I just knew that I was in the outlets and it was really loud and I wouldn't be able to give him the full attention. But then something said, answer it. So I was like, okay. So I answered the phone and he's like, what's up, cuzzo and all that stuff. And then he said, did Mike get an offer at Morgan State? And I'm like, no. And, I'm Mama Bear and I'm all on the whole thing. And I know I'd never even heard of that school. And I was like, no. I was like, why? He was like, well, I'm up here with, my girl and her son. He's a wide receiver and he's doing a tour, at this school. And the coaches were talking about, another wide receiver in Richmond. He was like, so in his mind, he was like, they got to be talking about Mike. Right? Like you were the only wide receiver in Richmond, right? So I was like, nah. He was like, He was like, oh, okay. So then we just talked for a little bit. So when I got off the phone, I said, this is interesting. Like, why did that just happen, right? And for those listening, the reason why I felt like it was interesting was because I just had a feeling. So when we get like inspired action, and inspired action is something that gets dropped in, right? It's like your spirit guides something will pop in your head or something odd will just happen, but it's a feeling that you attach to it. You'd be like, this is a little more than just a random call about that. There's something to this. So let me dig a little more. And this is where you take the inspired action wherever you're being led to. So I reached out to Billy, right? Which is Billy McMullen. And he's been a guest on the show twice before, but he's also, Michael's, his coach. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, do you know anybody at Morgan State? Do you know any coaches over there or whatever? And he was like, not off the top of my head, but let me dig a little deep. And then, I reached out to you on that. So then I did, what any other mama bear would do when it's football and getting, offers and all that stuff. I got on Twitter. So I got on Twitter and I started reaching out to the coaches, right? So I found out who the coaches were and I sent them messages. And then that's when the one coach reached out to me and I was like, holy shit. So I was telling you, after we were, going back, back and forth, sent a couple of messages. And I don't know if you remember. So, I know everything about football in my mind, right? So I'm like, yeah, he's, given like your height and your weight and your speed and all of this stuff, right? And I'm saying all this, I sent it to all of them. But the one that messaged me back and said, hey, do you have time to talk? Was the head coach. Right. It was the freaking head coach. Mind you, the other ones didn't reach back out to me and respond to me. They never even acknowledged my message because they didn't need to. Right. When you believe in yourself and you're stepping out on faith, Spirit is like, yo, you ain't got to go through all those people. You're going to go through the one that makes the decision. Right. So what were you thinking when I, reached out to you and I said something about like Morgan State? If you remember then, like, what was your thoughts?
I do. I just had a vivid memory of when that happened. And I just sat there and I just really, it was just like, that was the first, I don't want to say that's the first moment, but that was like when it officially clicked that faith is a real thing, like believing in yourself and not even just believing, but having a belief, because there's a difference between the two. You know, you could believe in something, but not actually like have a belief in it and really work towards it and stay down when it doesn't look like it's going to happen. That was the first time that I had that strong feeling where it was like, wow, you know, if you believe something, if you ask for something, if you just stay down, like it can come. Like it was literally everything that I described that I wanted out of a school, but I never heard of the school before. It was a Division I school, right? It was out of town. I didn't want to be in Virginia no more. The location was perfect because we're like 2.5 hours from Richmond to Morgan State, from Morgan State to New York, where the other half of the family is, another 2.5 hours. So in my head, I was just thinking like, well, I mean, this is like my best option. And like, I just like, I knew for a fact that like God was sending me here for a reason. So that was literally my first thought process. I was like, wow, like that doesn't just happen anywhere. Like the coaches don't be responding to like 90% of the athletes itself. So the fact that, you know, they're the head coach responded to you, I was like, okay, yeah, we in there. So that was my first thought process. And then when we actually went there to visit the school.
Let me back up real quick because this was just popping into my head. So for those of you who are listening and you're like, okay, you know, that's cool. You reached out and they reached back to you. That's probably kind of like a process. It actually goes a lot deeper than that of the different things, because if you've been listening to, you know, Seeing with Your Soul from the beginning, you would have heard me talk about my share when I had my first psychic reading with Jessica, who was the one who opened me up after the passing of my best friend. Well, when I had a session with her, she talked about Michael, and she talked about Michael without knowing like Michael. She was saying the energy of your son and da-da-da. It's like I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was like, she said something about, it's like he's just really like stuck and like just trapped and knowing he needs to make a decision, but he's not really sure. She was saying all this stuff. And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's Michael she's talking about. That it has to be. And I remember her talking about football and she said, Baltimore. This is before this happened. Before that, she said Baltimore. She's like, Baltimore is really, really strong. So I'm not going to say that I doubted her. That was just something that didn't resonate with me because we knew nothing about Baltimore. We knew nothing about any school that was in Baltimore. So it was kind of one of those things that I just said, okay, well, I felt like she hit it really strong with all these other things, but I don't really know what that is. And that was just what it was. It was like, okay. And I also remember stressing about like, are you going to get an offer? Are you going to get an offer? Like, we're getting down to the wire and like, oh, I don't know what to do. You had already got into other schools and all that stuff. So that wasn't even a thing. And I remember I had this vision and I remember going over, I don't even know if you remember this, but we were going over this bridge and I seen a building and I seen everything that like Spirit showed me the school. But there wasn't the name, there wasn't no name. And then I was like, I got the mascot, but I was like, it didn't make any sense to me, but I seen it just as clear as day. So then that was this thought that went by. And then that was when my cousin had called. So not thinking and putting them all together until after I was thinking back, right? So anyhow, so we go to do the visit and we go to the visit. So the guy, the coach, you know, he's talking to me and he was like, you know what? He was like, any mother that's going to ride for her son, you know, like this, he was like, I'm going to give them my time. And he was like, we already picked the people and but I want to bring you up there. So that's when we went to go up there. And I don't know if you remember, but when we were driving up there and we went over that bridge, I was like, this is it. This is the bridge. I was like, do you remember me saying, this is it. This is it. And it was so crazy, right? It was so crazy because we seen it. Right. I had already seen it and then we were going over it. So we'll fast forward to what was it? A transcript. So if you want to tell, if you remember how that played out about that part. So yeah. I'll set up, you have to get your transcript. So I did that, you know, as the mom, I set it up to get the transcript. So if any of you guys have kids that are going to like school or been through the process, yourself, you have to get your transcript, but it has to be the official one and it has to be in that sealed envelope, right? So then they'll give you a copy. So I had a copy and I had it in an envelope, but I had also sent it straight to the school, and that was that. So do you want to tell the part? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. There's actually a couple little things from there on out that was just like everything was just falling into place. I think the transcript part was the first thing, right? Because we had to turn in the documents and then we went to meet the coaches, right? Or do we meet the coaches?
Yeah, first? we went to meet we get up to the school and we went to meet the coaches. So when we went to meet the coaches, we were doing it the same day. We didn't know this or whatever, but we went to meet the coaches. There was the head coach, and then you got to meet the other coaches. You want to talk about that part?
Yeah. So before we even get to the transcripts, right? So we're meeting the other coaches. I get to meet the head coach. Super cool guy, super, super genuine, very humble. And I remember he took me into the other room where all the other coaches were. And it was like the whole coaching staff sitting at a table and they were watching film. They had like their prospect list out and all this stuff. And I'm just connecting with everybody. And I go over to the offensive coordinator. I shake his hand and introduce myself. And, we're talking. I tell him I play wide receiver. Then I tell him, I was like, yeah, I've been training with one of my mentors.
No, that is not how it went. You're leaving out a part. They were watching your film and it was something that you did.
Oh, yeah.
That part, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so rewind. I don't remember exactly word for word, but you got good memory. Right. So they were watching my film, actually. And I think it was the way that I was moving my hips. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the hips. Right. And it was like, yeah, you got some loose hips to be that tall and everything, like, or I forgot what they said, but who do you work with? And I was like, oh yeah, I've been training with Billy McMullen. I don't know if you guys know who that is. Offensive coordinator lost it. Like, he was a big fan of my trainer. He's like, you work with Billy McMullen? I know him. Like, something about UVA. He was saying all his stats. He was like, yeah, that's a really good guy. At that point, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. And it's the offensive coordinator, and he knows like, oh yeah, we're about to have some fun here. So that was the first thing that I was just like, what are the odds that like
exactly
like he was like, yeah, I remember when he was on the Eagles and the Vikings. I'm just like, wow. So, that's the first thing afterwards. I was like, yo, Billy, you the man, bro. you the man. So yeah, that was the first sign. I was like, okay, yeah, we in here. So we meet all the coaches. They show me around. Last thing we had to do was make it official, right? Get our transcript in so I can be actually a student, right? Because you can't be an athlete without being a student, or else I would still be an athlete. Right? So anyways, we get there, and like my mom was saying, as far as like the transcript, you need an official document from your school to turn in your transcripts. And that takes a process to get. Like, it has to be a sealed envelope, all that good stuff. But we had a transcript. It was an unofficial transcript. And we were like, you know what, let's see what happens. So we go to the counselor's office and we're waiting in line. There's a little line you're waiting for to get sent to one of the counselors. And we get sent to this one counselor.
No, you're skipping.
Wait. I'm getting there. Trust me. So we're waiting for a minute, and I don't remember exactly, but I know what part you think I'm skipping. I'm going to get there. Right. So we get to the counselor's office, and first thing she says is like, I don't remember what day it was we're there, but she's like, yeah.
You skipped the before part. That's what I'm saying. You skipped what happened before we got to the counselor.
Oh, wait.
Let me tell you. You can jump in there.
Tell it. Because
the reason why I feel like but on a serious note, the reason why I'm saying not to leave that out is because this is what it looks like when you believe in yourself and you step out on faith. And when I say inspired action, when you do your part, the universe, God, whatever you're connecting to, will move the things in your way. So I had already did my part. And I will stand by this. I'm very good at making sure taking care of things. So I had already set up everything that he told me to do. You had to go and fill out the application. You had to do like the test set of your testing stuff. And I had to get the transcripts and stuff. So I had already did all of that in enough time for it to be there. So when he told us after you were done meeting with the coaches, he's like, you know what, why don't you guys just go ahead and walk on over there? I'm going to call them and let them know that you're coming. So when we got over there, we got to the lady who was, I don't want to diminish whatever her title is, but she was like the receptionist person, the one who screens everything. And that was where I had the letter. And she was looking you up and she couldn't pull up your name. And I was like, oh my God. That little thing was about to kick in, like I knew it was too good to be true type thing. And then she's like, oh, here you go. And then she was like, wait, we don't have your transcript. I was like, I already sent it. I did it with on such and such date. It says that it was sent. And she didn't have it. And I was like, well, I have it right here. I have it right here. And I just showed the envelope. And she's like, no, we can't take that. Then it was a couple minutes went by when she was doing whatever. And I was like, but I have it here. It's in the envelope. And she was like, actually, yeah, we can take that. And I was like, that's holy right. Shit. And the reason why I say that's so important, because anybody knows that when you are applying for school and stuff, you have to have the official. She never received the official, and that official was sent directly to them because it cannot be in an open envelope. That envelope that I gave her was my envelope. I was just nice enough to fold it up and put it in there because I'm like, let me just have the copy as well. So I gave her that and she took that. So you have to, before you can see the counselor, you have to get past that screening. And that's when we got past the screening. And then the lady came out. So if you remember, you could take it from there.
Okay. I thought the counselor said what the first part was. So
no,
that happened. They weren't taking the transcript. I was in my head. I was like, are you serious? Like what? Like the transcript, like the grades are there. You can pull it up. I can show you. So anyways, get into the room. And just the energy when I walked into the room, it felt like, I don't want to say weird, but I felt like something spiritually was happening and we were being connected. And the lady was just saying like, yeah, I'm usually, I don't remember exactly what day it was, but she was like, oh, you caught me at a good time. I'm usually not in the office, on these days, but, someone just told me to come here today. And then, yeah, we were talking, she pulls up my grades. And there's something else that happened that almost didn't go through. Do you remember?
Yeah. So what it was when we were in there, she was looking at everything and she says, I guess that they highlight everything that's missing. And then she was like, yeah, the only thing we need is she back into the transcript. And then she looked on there and she's like, oh, you're good. We have it. And she's like, okay. She's like, you're good to go. She literally said it just like that. She's like, you're good. You're in. We were like, wait, what? And she was like, yeah, I'll call, coach such and such. He's like, I'll call him and, and just let him know that you're good to go. I mean, we were just like, so that was when we looked at each other. And then I think you said something to her and something to the fact of like, that's crazy something. And that's when she made the comment. She said, actually, she's like, you guys got lucky. She was like, because I'm never in the office on such and such. She's like, I just happened, something told me to come in today. And we were like,
and then that's when we looked at each other again. We were like, I know what something it was.
Yeah.
I know exactly what it is. You served your purpose. You can go back home now.
Yeah.
You want to know a fun fact real quick while we're talking about transcripts? They never got my official transcript to this day. They never got it.
That's the craziest part. But and I remember when we walked out of her office and we had to go back over to the other place. We walked out of there and it was like that eerie feeling and we were both quiet. And I remember looking at you and I said, that's what it looks like when you are walking in your purpose. God will roll out the red carpet. All the things that everybody else says is tough and it's hard and you have this obstacle and you have that. No, when you are in alignment with what your soul's purpose is at that moment or at that time, all those obstacles and those barriers and all those things that we just humanly say is in the way, God will remove all of that. Your spirit guides, your ancestors, whoever it is that's rocking with you, whatever you believe in connecting will remove all of that. And it felt so eerie because we're used to challenges, right? We're used to a challenge. We're used to things that are so hard you have to go through. And sometimes I look at that and I always share with people and I say, where are you resisting at, right? Where are you resisting at in your life? Maybe it's time to surrender and just trust and things that don't have to be hard, right? Or did you stray off of that path, right? None of the paths are wrong. Some of them are just a lot harder than the others. Now, had you been believed in, your coach doubting you and any of those other things, that wouldn't have opened up as easy for you because you would have been going off of someone else, right? You would have been going off of someone else. And I always share parts of that story with that because it was so powerful. And it was something that was just literally just dropped out of the sky. And a lot of people will use those type of things and stuff and be like, oh, this thing is just going to fall out of the sky. Yeah. Because it did. It actually did. Like, I mean, reaching out to people on Twitter and not even responding. But then the one that does respond is the head coach. And he was in a meeting and he left out of that big meeting or whatever to call me when I gave him the number. Because that's what it was. He was just like, asked for the number. And I sent him my number and he left out of that meeting. And yeah, there was a little part of me was like, is this person for real? So I'm like, Google him and I'm like, holy shit, he actually is the head coach. This is him. This is the one who makes the decisions, the decision maker. Like, this is like who that is. So everything lined up for you, right? And it was something that you wanted, you know, and it doesn't matter, like guys, whatever reason it is that you want or you desire something, like that's really just like for you. So let's go to, you know, you're at the school now, like, you got it. You got what it is that you wanted. Like, then what? Like, how did it actually make you feel?
So once I got there, it was like a bunch of different emotions. For one, you know, just any college, you know, freshman in college has that bittersweet feeling of finally, you know, making it to that next chapter of your life where you're not necessarily like independent, but you're taking that step into the real world. But just as far as just like how I felt about accomplishing that goal, like it was something that like I was genuinely just like, I was grateful. You know, I was really just grateful because what I asked for and what I worked, you know, years for, it came. But it was like also another sense of just like, okay, I'm here now. Like, what am I going to do next? Like, how am I going to make something out of this opportunity? So it was just like a balance between just being grateful for what I accomplished and just understanding that I had a strong belief and I made it happen. And then it was like, okay, now it's the next chapter. Like, this is what I've been talking about and hoping for. Like, what am I going to do to move forward to, you know, showcase? And I was moving with a lot of, you know, around that time in my life of trying to not necessarily like prove other people wrong, but I feel like it was more in a sense to like prove other people wrong rather than proving myself right. So it was like, it was a lot of energy on me that shouldn't have been there, but I was really just doing what I've been saying I wanted to do for the longest. So once I got to that school, it was just like, all right, here's an opportunity. Let's make something of it. And it was honestly like I learned so much being there that had nothing to do with school, with football, but anything but life in general. So that was what I learned from that experience of, okay, now I'm at the school, you know, now I'm at Division I. Is this something that I really wanted? Or is this something that, you know, I thought I wanted?
Yeah. And I think that's and you want to go back into that. Is this something that I really wanted, or is this something that I just thought that I wanted? Was I really trying to prove other people wrong, or was I trying to prove myself right? And that is something I'm always like going to really like look at and talk about is your foundation. Your foundation has to be firm. If your foundation is not firm, it's going to crumble. So what is the reason? You know, why did you want to go to deep? And I'm not asking you this, just saying, why is it that you wanted to go to a Division I? Why did you want to do this? Why did you want to do that? Because if that foundation is based off of someone else or proving someone else, you know, per se wrong or whatever, you know, the case is, like, things can crumble on there, right? So, you know, for you guys listening, you know, where this desire, like, what is it that you truly want to do in your life, and why, right? So you know how, you know, a lot of people always say, like, find your why. I just talked about this on the podcast. So by the time you guys listen to it, it'll be the podcast episode before, where I talked about, I write a whole bunch of things on different stickies that I want to bring into fruition. But after I write them and put them, they think they're stickies. After I write them and put them on the sticky, I then go back and I look at each one, and I'm either journaling about it or I'm asking myself, okay, now one of the things on my wall is a deeper spiritual practice. But now I'm asking myself, well, why do I want a deeper spiritual practice? And based off of what is coming, like, how does that feel for me? Right? How does that feel for me? Is it in alignment, or am I doing or this thing that I want, is it coming from my ego? right? Is it because I just want to prove this or I want to show this and it doesn't really feel good? Then I'm going to remove that sticky off of the wall because that's not something that's in alignment with like who I am, right? So like for you, saying like with this getting into the school, it's like, wait a minute, was I really doing this to prove somebody wrong? So you have to question it. And I know that was probably a big tough. So I'll ask you, for the listeners that don't know, like, are you still in school and are you playing football now?
I am actually not in school anymore. And no, I don't play football. Definitely still stay in shape, workout and everything. But yeah, it just wasn't the path for me. And now looking back, it's something that I truly loved, but I don't think that was exactly what I wanted. I think it was a little bit more from that experience and just being in the field of playing football and just going through that whole journey that led me to learn some lessons that I needed, to this day and moving forward with everything else that I do. Like the biggest thing I took from that whole thing, now that we're talking about this, was just my belief level was through the roof. Like couldn't nobody tell me nothing. Like I was the man. Like I that was just how I moved. And I was just like, I knew I was capable of reaching that highest level of success of Division I, and then from there to the NFL. And I think I think belief is something that everybody needs. Like everybody, I don't care what you do. Like if you don't have belief, then you're not gonna achieve anything. I forgot who told me this, but I mean, you probably hear it from everybody. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And as cliche as that sounds, like I had a firsthand experience of believing something that the odds were so against me, but we still made it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and sometimes this is what I say all the time is you're never going to go down the wrong path. We never go down the wrong path. All paths will lead us to exactly where we're meant to be. It's just that, and all of them will have different lessons. It's just that some of those lessons are a lot more painful than the others. So for you, your biggest lesson was the belief, right? Believing in yourself. So sometimes whether you started out to say, I just got to prove this person, wrong, however it is that you did, at the end of the day, you proved that you could believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, things like this happen, right? So does that mean that you have to finish school? Does that mean you have to finish playing football? No. What you did was you just learned such a valuable lesson that you get to take that into any other part of your life. And knowing that you can truly believe in yourself and you can trust your own inner compass and that guidance and your intuition, that shit is powerful because you can apply that to any area of your life. And that was something that was super, big and important, for you. So like right now, where do you live right now? Like currently, where are you recording this podcast from?
Right now, currently recording this podcast all the way out in Oahu, Hawaii, be more specific, in a small town, Kapolei. It's been great experience. I live on an island now, so it's definitely something that, I'm grateful for sure. And back then I didn't see myself being here at all.
But even with something like that, when I'm talking about it with the people and even like people like who are like your age and stuff, like, with like, my friends' kids, it was like, man, I'm just seeing Mike out and like, that's so amazing that he just did it. God, I would love to just do it. And I'm like, just do it, just do it. And that's something that you're, really strong with is just like, this is what I want to do. And I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to make it happen. And I'm going to figure it out. And it's just going to flow and things are just going to work out. Some things could be painful. Some things could be super easy breezy, but it's all really about that experience. And you wanted to experience what it's like living there. I have so many adults that are like, oh, is he out there for school? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, he just like moved. Yeah. So many people can't see that. They think that, oh, if you're in another state or you're in wherever it is, oh, it's because of a job. Oh, it's because of,
or the military.
Or the military. And it's like, no, it's because you want to experience this, right? And that's the biggest thing. Like, I also want to share with you guys is, what do you want to experience? Is there a place you want to experience? Is there something you want to try? Maybe you just want to learn how to knit. Maybe you want to learn how to cook. Maybe you want to know what it's like to live on an island, like whatever. Set that and say, this is what I want to experience this time in this lifetime. And I promise you, the universe is going to start matching that energy because this is something you want and you believe in yourself.
100%. And just to like piggyback on that, and just like, cause I get that a lot. Like, oh, you're out there for school. Oh, did you go here? Are you in the service? Everyone that sees me in Hawaii, oh, you're in the military? No. Like, what'd you move here for? I've never been to Hawaii. I wanted to experience it. And I think that just came from a big lesson that I learned from successful people is they don't spend a lot of time on making a decision. They don't spend too much time on making the right or wrong decision. What they do is they'll go out and they'll make a decision, and then they spend time on making sure that that's the right decision. And I think that's what most people need to do. And that's like the hardest thing in life is to just start. Like, just start whatever you want to do. Like this, again, it sounds cliche, but like literally just do it. That's like the hardest but easiest, like, advice that I can give someone is just do it and then figure it out after. Because if you believe strong enough and you have the faith, the how will show up. The how will show up. And, you and I both are testimonies to not knowing how we were going to do something, but we knew why and we believed it and we just did it and took the steps. They say, move your feet and God will guide your footsteps. So we just did that, and like the how started to show up. So, and I tell people all the time, don't focus on making the right or wrong decision. Just make the decision and make sure that you make it the right one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I love that it's just taking action, just, and that action is just believing in yourself. Right. And then you take the next additional thing. Like I was doing the, SJ, which is, my youngest son, he does the virtual reality. And he asked me, he was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, you know what, let me do this, let me do this with him. He's asking me. So I'm putting it on, on the little headset things or whatever it is. And he's showing me what to do. Right. So I have it on and then he's telling me to move my hands. So I'm at a standstill, I'm just there, just standing there. And I'm only moving my hands. Right. He's like, okay. And I'm like, oh, I got it. I figured it out. And I'm like moving my hands. And then I'm like, all right, I'm like, this is a workout. So I go and take it off. I am probably about 4 inches from the wall, like to be smacking the wall. And I'm like, SJ, dude, you wasn't going to like tell me I was about to smack my head on this wall. And he's laughing. And I said to him, wait a minute. When did I even move my legs? How did I get here? I was only moving my arms. That's it. And I'm like, and now I'm at the wall. And I mean, we was a good couple of feet back. And I'm like, I don't remember moving my legs. I'm like, how did I get here? And then, me, I'm always looking at everything and I relate it back into life. And I'm like, see, the how was none of our business. The how wasn't none of my business how I got to that wall. What was important was that I was moving, right? I was doing some form of movement. And when you start to move, the universe will just start unfolding everything else. And then you'll get to where it is that you were meant to be or whatever it was you were seeking and you were like desiring. So I love it. I love it. I love it.
Side note real quick. Tell FJ to add me. I got the goggles too. We can go play in the metaverse. I'm going to give him a call after this, actually.
Yeah. Call him afterwards and tell him. Yeah, I was like, I think I want to get one for myself. One of my clients was actually telling me that he got one for his son. And he said it has some meditation on there.
They do.
He said he was meditating. He said he got to go to like Japan and everything just seemed so real. And he was just using it for himself. And I was like, I need to get me one too, right? Because that's what it's about, right?
I went to Barcelona on there and I was meditating and like you really use your hands. Like you can look around and see stuff. I done punched the wall a couple of times, all that.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I need to get me one of these to be able to like, so that's the
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we hop off on here, is there anything that you want to add to the people when it comes to, you really kind of did a really good job just now talking about stepping out on, faith and believing in yourself, but is anything you want to anything you want to leave them with? And then also how can people connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. If there was one piece of advice I'll leave anybody is number one, it's never too late to make that decision to change your life. Doesn't matter if you're 12, you're 15, you're 30, you're 40, you're 60, you're 80, right? Time is going to pass regardless. So don't ever use I'm too young or I'm too old as an excuse to change your life. And really just like the biggest thing is like work on belief, like rewatch this podcast, really just find out what it is and be clear on what you want. And once you have that idea, protect it. Like you got to protect it because there's going to be outside sources that are going to be doubting you. There's going to be people who are telling you it doesn't work, but none of that stuff matters if you believe, right? If you believe in yourself, I should say, because think about it like this. If somebody was to come up to you and tell you you're ugly, but you know you're not ugly, that's just in one ear and out the other, because you know, like, you're not ugly. You're not ugly until you actually believe what they said. So treat the same thing when people are doubting your business, when they're doubting your job, when they're doubting your personal life or whatever it is. Just find what you want and just stay true to it and believe every single day, even when it's not looking good, even when it's going bad, even when it's great, right? And I believe that you will be able to accomplish whatever it is that you want. So definitely don't ever think it's too late, but also don't wait too long.
Love it, love it, love it. And where can they connect with you at? Where do you like to hang out the most?
Spend a lot of my time on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at HumbleMike84. Actually, every single platform is HumbleMike84. So if you got Snapchat, you can check me on there. TikTok, HumbleMike84. The metaverse, HumbleMike84, all of that stuff. Yeah, but I would say I'm majority on Instagram. I go live every Sunday and Wednesday, just giving information and value. So you guys can definitely check me out on there as well, too.
Love it, love it, love it. This has been good. Thank you for blessing us with your time, with your words, the story, and all of that good stuff. And for those of you listening, if something on here resonated with you and you feel like, we'll definitely share this podcast for sure. But if something, resonated with you, I want you to spend a little bit more time with it. Maybe you go back and listen to it again and just see like, okay, why is this resonating with this? Am I being called to take some type of inspired, action? Or maybe it's also that because it's resonating with you is somebody else that that this could also help them too, because you guys were connecting over it. So definitely, share that with them as well. All right. Until next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Seeing with Your Soul. If something you heard resonated with you, feel free to rate, review, and share with others. If you are looking to go deeper, you can connect with Tisha Michelle on Instagram at Mindset Slayer or visit www.healingalignedglow.com.